So, what does it take to challenge the entire authority of your society? Not with an army, not with force, but with a single powerful idea. Today, we're diving into the story of Abraham and what it teaches us about the birth of intellectual freedom. Seriously, think about that for a second. Every tradition, every belief, every symbol of power that your community holds sacred, and you're the only one who sees things differently. Would you really have the courage to speak up? Well, this is the exact position one man found himself in. His name was Abraham, and his story is just this incredible lesson in what it means to confront the way things have always been. And what's so amazing is that he didn't raise a sword. He raised questions. He challenged the deeply rooted intellectual and religious authority of his time, armed with nothing more than reason and logic. It was, in a way, a revolution of the mind. Now, to really appreciate the kind of courage this took, we have to understand the world he was born into, a world run by an authority that was invisible, yet absolutely everywhere, inherited tradition. In Abraham's world, idols weren't just statues. They were the very fabric of daily life. I mean, every single home had one. The traditions passed down from ancestors, they were considered the absolute truth. The entire social and political power structure was built on keeping these beliefs going. So you can imagine, questioning them wasn't just unpopular, it was a direct threat to the whole system. And this right here is the first huge lesson from his story. Abraham realized that just because a belief is old, that doesn't automatically make it true. Sometimes what we call tradition is just a habit we've passed down without ever really stopping to think about it. So how did he break free from the weight of all that history? It wasn't through some big, angry rebellion. Nope. It started with simple curiosity and a real commitment to rational thought. See, this wasn't some emotional rejection of the idols. It was a logical process, step by step. First, he just observed the world around him, the sun, the moon, the stars. Then he started to question their ultimate power, figuring, hey, they're also just created things, right? And this led him to a really powerful conclusion. True faith can't be blind. It has to make sense. It has to connect with logic and reality. And this chart just lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you've got blind imitation, basically following along because of social pressure. But on the other, you have a conscious faith, a belief system that you've actually earned through your own critical thinking. One is just inherited, the other is achieved. But it's one thing to have these thoughts in private. It is a completely different ballgame to act on them in public. And that takes an incredible amount of courage. Abraham didn't just keep his conclusions to himself. He went public with them. He didn't hide his beliefs. No, he confronted the highest authorities he knew, his own father, who was in charge of the family idols, and even the king, the ultimate symbol of his society's power. Just let that scale sink in for a moment. This wasn't some friendly debate among peers. This was one single person standing up against the collective weight of his entire civilization. The pressure must have been immense. And the system, well, it pushed back hard. For daring to challenge the way things were, for refusing to just conform, his own people sentenced him to the most extreme punishment you can imagine. They threw him into a blazing fire. So, as the story goes, he miraculously survived. But here's the key. The miracle itself wasn't the point. It wasn't some magic show. It had a purpose. It was this massive public confirmation of his message, showing everyone the truth behind his reasoned beliefs in a way that words alone just couldn't. It's a really powerful story. But what does this ancient account of challenging stone idols have to do with us, here and now? Well, as it turns out, the lessons are surprisingly modern. When you boil it all down, Abraham's journey really teaches us three timeless truths. First, that your own awareness is way more important than just following tradition. Second, that real change demands the courage to question the ideas that everyone else just accepts. And third, a belief system that's actually built on reason is strong enough to stand up to any amount of social pressure. And this doesn't just apply to individuals, it applies to entire societies. Any group, any culture, any nation that just follows its inherited rules without ever stopping to review them, they're making themselves vulnerable to some really big mistakes, no matter how solid or permanent they might seem on the outside. So the story of Abraham really just leaves us with a question.
It's not about ancient idols made of stone, but about the inherited ideas we live with today. Are we willing to put them to the test, to really examine them with reason? Or do we just follow along simply because it's what we've always been told? That choice, just like it was for him, is ours.